Two criminals committed the same crime. One is sentenced for 35 years in prison, while the other is given 2 years. How do you explain this? The ruling caught me by a surprise, and I decided to go through news articles from different media houses to help me understand why the difference was that big. The only explicit difference I could find was that the one who got 35 years sentence was unremorseful. The two criminals were both employed at Mama Lucy Kibaki Hospital as social workers. The male criminal Fred Leprin was given 35 years while the female, who is called Selina Adundo, was given 2 years. This story was first aired by BBC. A team of undercover investigators infiltrated a series of child trafficking rings that extend from the slums of Nairobi in an investigation that took 1 year. The team that was led by reporter Njeri Mwangi uncovered evidence of newborn babies being stolen from their mothers and sold on the streets of Nairobi for as little as $400. Working with a network of informers and whistleblowers, Africa Eye uncovered a trade in human lives that preys on the country's most vulnerable women, leaving them with unimaginable trauma in its wake. After going through articles from 3 media houses, I could not get substantive reason to warrant such a huge difference in sentencing. The main takeaways was that Fred had worked for long in community service and ought to have protected the children. In the crime that led to his arrest, Fred received 300,000 shillings from an undercover investigator named Rose in exchange for a child. Rose was pretending to be a buyer, and it was confirmed that Fred had intention of selling the child. News articles from The Star, Citizen Digital, and BBC, however, does not explain the role the co-accused Selina did. They also do not explain why Selina received a sentence of only 2 years for child trafficking. However, The Star explains why Fred received a longer sentence by citing that he was unremorseful. The probation report claimed that he was not remorseful as he did not take responsibility and was quick to defend blame. The judge said that he did not comprehend the gravity of the offense due to his character of being not remorseful. In her judgment, the magistrate said the prosecution proved that Fred held 3 meetings, which the court concluded that the discussions in the meetings was for the sale of a child. My question is not being remorseful such a serious offense to warrant such big difference? Fred's lawyer, Danstan Omari, even denied the claims and insisted that Fred was very remorseful. These were Omari's words. When Leprin was arrested, the mother believed he would be acquitted and has suffered mental challenges due to the case. Out of the conviction, the convict might lose his mother and his children might suffer. Kindly save the mother, as the probation report recommends. He is sincerely remorseful and needs another chance. It is important to note that this is not the only case with such a disparity in sentencing. Do you remember a woman who was jailed for 1 day for killing her husband? The case was also handled by a female judge, just like the previous one. The High Court sitting in Siaya went ahead to take care of travel expenses for the murderer, whose name is Trifina Ndanga Aswani, to help her reach a safe place after serving the 1-day sentence. The judge termed the case as landmark and was meant to elicit fresh discussions on domestic violence. She added that the judgment was made so that the woman and others who may have undergone domestic and gender-based violence may have a voice. In the case, Jared Abochi, deceased, had returned home late on December 14 after drinking, as was his norm, and was served with dinner. He picked a quarrel after the dinner with the accused. Abochi demanded to be given a title deed for land his father had bequeathed Trifina to protect the family from ending up in the cold. The father had fears that Abochi would sell the property due to his drinking habit. When she declined to surrender the title deed, the man grabbed a machete, but before he could slash her, Trifina got hold of it and cut her husband several times, killing him. She then dragged the body and concealed it using grass in a neighbor's farm, some 200 meters away from their home. This was her side of the story. The man was dead and could not tell his side. Still, one question remains answered: if she fought him in self-defense, why did she have to cut him several times? And if a man grabs a weapon a woman is trying to use to kill him and uses it to kill the woman, can he be forgiven? In another case, a woman was given a year in prison for killing her husband. The woman, whose name is Grace Watiri, pleaded guilty to the murder of her husband. She said that they were fighting and she screamed for help, but no one came. She then hit him with a glass and went to the kitchen, got a knife and stabbed his pelvic area. This case seemed to be a second-degree murder. Even though she never planned it, she did intentionally. Instead of going for a knife from the kitchen, she would have used the opportunity to escape. Her gender seemed to have helped her get some years deducted. The judge who handled the case was a female judge named Lezit. This woman intentionally killed her husband but only got 1-year sentence.
But in another case, there was a man who was caught on camera beating his wife, and even though the wife neither died nor sustained severe injuries, he was given a prison sentence of 12 years. The man, whose name was David Nzomo, caught his wife with another man and assaulted her, which is a typical reaction of someone who got his spouse cheating. I understand that whatever he did was bad, but is it worse compared to intentional murder? If not, then why did someone who intentionally killed her husband get a year in prison and a man who assaulted his wife get 12 years? In another case, a man was given 50 years for sealing his wife's genitalia with superglue. John Kifo Mariuki believed that his wife was cheating when he was away. He then lured her to a river where he sealed her private parts with superglue. Again, this crime was bad. But could a woman get 50 years for pouring acid on her husband's private part? The big question is, does it mean that a woman only needs to say that the man was violent or she did it in self-defense to get off the hook? In your opinion, are these cases fair? Or is judgment only fair when it does not leave a woman grieving?